Disclaimer: the information contained within this video are subjective personal opinions. No legal liability is accepted whatsoever. This video is intended solely as a discussion guide. Always obtain independent legal advice before acting on any of the informations presented. Buying a house. Purchasing a house and land will be one of the biggest financial commitments most folk will ever make in their lives, so it definitely pays to do your homework and make sure that the property you have chosen is suited to your needs. You have to choose wisely because once you are signed up, it most likely will be a very long time before you move elsewhere. Find a property that makes you happy because after all is said and done, it is you and or your partner and family that will reside there. Find something that fits your budget comfortably. Everyone likes brand new, but the fact is real estate prices in New Zealand are high when compared to some other countries, and sometimes a foot in the door will take you a very far way. If buying used, do not be discouraged, as home ownership is a very valuable thing in these modern times, and once paid off, a home can open many doors in the financial market because it gives you a solid asset with which to launch into other ventures should you so be inspired. Unlike paying rent to a landlord, you will have something tangible that renting will never give you. A house you can say you own, something that is becoming more difficult to achieve for many in New Zealand as time passes. Where to start? If you need to arrange finance, then obviously you will need to have a good savings, credit history and be employed. The longer the better. Assuming you have this, you need to approach your bank or a financial institution. Some folk even use mortgage brokers. Essentially, you need to do whatever it takes to secure finance, and once this is achieved, you will need to find a property that fits your budget, not a property that stretches your budget. This is important because if somewhere along the way your circumstances change, you will need to have a small financial reserve. Finding a good property. Real estate agents advertise everywhere. If you're not internet savvy, then use the local newspaper or pick up a guide from outside of one of your local real estate agents. The internet has advantages over this, as most real estate agents use a few popular websites to advertise on. You can, on some real estate websites, for example, find out how many folk have viewed a particular property, how long that property has been on the market for, and you get a lot more pictures and general detail about the property than you would from a flyer. If you don't know how to get on the net, then your best bet is to find someone that does and get them to show you how, because to not be able to use the internet in searching for real estate is going to disadvantage you somewhat. So what properties are better than others? First up, we need to briefly mention the types of ownership titles different properties have, because all properties might look the same. From a legal perspective, some are superior to others, and this is reflected in their title. Property titles. Certificate of title. Fee simple. If you're new to the property market and buying your first home, and your budget will enable you to buy a freestanding house on a section, then in my opinion the best property to buy is a property that's title describes the estate as being fee simple. Ask the seller if the property is fee simple. Further, ask to have a look at the title, as it will give you more information about the property. Make sure the proprietor's name is the name of the person you are talking to if it is a private sale, as only the proprietor can sell or dispose of the property privately. If a real estate agent is selling the property, then they are acting on behalf of the proprietor and should have the proprietor's signed consent to do so. The title will tell you how much of an area of land is involved and its location, legal description. It will also tell you whether the property owner owes any money on the property. If you look at the bottom heading, interests, it might say mortgage to. Knowing this means the owner might be more negotiable due to the fact they have a mortgage on the property. The interest section of this document should never be overlooked. For example, if it states there is a caveat, then this is something you will need to take very seriously, as a caveat means that someone else, another party, has a registered interest in the property. Usually a caveat signifies that the property owner has made an agreement or is party to a contract with another person or entity, a third party, and this other person or entity has placed a caveat on the title to protect their interest. It might be that, for example, that this other person has put their own property up as security so the owner could get their mortgage, and that after a period of time the owner has promised to free this person's other property from that mortgage, and until this occurs, the caveat holder is able to stop any further dealing in the property. The caveat holder will have priority over you in any dealing regarding the property, and the seller or owner of the property will not be able to dispose of the property unless the caveat is removed from the title, and only the holder of the caveat can agree to this, or a court can remove it by application, but only under limited circumstances. Be aware that caveats are not removed overnight. An application must be made and the caveat holder given time to respond to any request. So the seller really is not able to dispose of the property at all if a caveat is in place without the consent of the caveat holder. So generally I would steer clear of any title that shows a caveat, as they take time to remove, and really the property owner should have had it removed prior to the sale. However, if you are keen on the property, then you could make it a condition of sale in the further terms of sale that the caveat be removed, and be aware that the caveat holder will have the power to stop any dealing in the property if the owner has failed to keep any agreement or contract. Other things that might appear on a property title in the interests section are a fencing covenant. These can be a minor issue if the person named is no longer an adjoining neighbour, as it will be deemed expired, but you would still want the seller to remove it at their expense as a condition of sale, regardless of whether the person named is still an adjoining neighbour or not, as from my perspective it is not very fair that you should inherit another person's issues if you are expending such a sum purchasing. Also keep in mind the fact you had nothing to do with the person or reason the covenant was issued. A fencing covenant in a small way may be another reason you can bargain down the asking price from a seller, as at worst it might mean you have to pay for a fence. Getting the covenant removed will give you a cleaner title, but in saying this, fencing covenants are a very minor issue when compared to a caveat. Some interests cannot be removed, such as water drainage rights, council rights, shared access, etc. In general, if you have a fee simple title with no interest showing, you have the best title any property owner could hope for, as you have an unrestricted right to the property. Ideally, you want a title that is fee simple with nothing in the interests section. This is, in my opinion, the best title you can have. Although some will have a mortgage to, this will be removed when you purchase as part of the transfer. This is where it is most important to have your own lawyer for such a transaction, as they will be able to oversee the transfer and ensure all legal issues are sorted. If a seller says their lawyer can do the transaction and save you some money, do not be tempted, as to protect your own rights it is most advisable to seek independent legal advice. That is, engage a lawyer that has nothing to do with the seller in any way. Don't even use the same firm as the seller. You will find plenty of lawyers in the phone book, and one that specializes in property conveyance is what you need, although most current practicing lawyers will be qualified to do so. Search around, as some lawyers offer rates and are not that expensive. A lawyer can guide you and advise you as per any instructions you give them. Never sign anything without legal advice. If a real estate agent or a private seller asks you to sign any document, do not sign until you have had independent legal advice. No matter how insignificant they say it is, legal terms and conditions may have different meanings to what you or anybody else might think, and only a qualified, experienced lawyer fully understands these terms. Seriously, sneaky tip. Some real estate agents only care about getting you to sign an offer to purchase agreement. Then they have you bound, and they will make it seem like your offer means nothing if you don't sign up a sale and purchase agreement then and there. And to a certain extent this is true. Buyer beware. When they do this, they are, in my own personal opinion, stretching the boundaries of their obligation to you as a real estate agent. That is, they should treat you fairly and allow you time to seek legal advice, and this does not seem unreasonable or unfair to me, and in fact is much in line with the introductory institute guide they offer. This, in my opinion, is the weakest link in real estate transactions, and unfortunately this seems to be when a purchaser is most vulnerable, as seeking legal advice may not be possible given the day or hour you wish to advance your offer. You need to tread very lightly here, and remember to sign no document without consulting a lawyer, particularly if you are a first-time purchaser. If you like or are most interested in a property and wish to make an offer, you can do either one of these three things, and it is most advisable you go with the first option.